I was just sitting here thinking, the world needs a badass Thanksgiving manga, right? Probably not, but I wanted to share my process for making mini manga. And in this video, I do that and I sprinkle in some of my own thoughts about art style, influence, and just the struggles of being on the artist journey. And at the very end, I'll tell you how to get my mini manga template for free. Before I talk about the process, I just want to tell you about how I start every project. It all begins with an idea. That's it. I start with an idea and then it goes from there. So in this case, I'm in the US, it's November, which for anyone familiar with American holidays, we have Thanksgiving coming up around the corner. And I had this idea of doing a Thanksgiving special, a mini manga about Thanksgiving, or at least my own ridiculous made up interpretation of Thanksgiving. So growing up, when I was in elementary school, we would draw turkeys, but we'd use the outline of our own hands to create a silhouette of a turkey. And I kind of thought that was funny. So I wanted my Thanksgiving special mini manga to be about a hand turkey. So after I get that idea, I go make a little script for myself. And the script acts like a guide, so I can go and draw every page based on the script. It's not fancy. I just do bare bones. There's no rules really when you're making a script. It's just a guide for yourself. The script, I go and I quickly storyboard my pages. I don't care about good drawings at all. I care about speed and page flow. But there's a few things I keep in mind that are fully conscious, and I'm always thinking about them with any kind of image that I make. Mental things that I think will really amplify my work, and thinking about shapes, contrasts between light versus dark, lines and how they interact in a panel or move throughout a page, relationships of panels and shapes within the panels, like big, medium, small shapes, and a balance of all that. It could be unbalanced, but just being conscious of how the page feels overall, and the readability and the clear graphic shapes help lead the eye from page to page. So these are things that I'm always trying to keep at the front of my thoughts. And other than that, I try not to care too much, because the good graphic shapes can carry the entire story on their backs. Like, I don't have to be good at anything if my shapes are strong. Something I need to constantly remind myself of is that I don't want to be perfect, and I'm not going to try to be. So I have to tell myself to get out of that mindset and let things be imperfect and move on with your life, because you got a lot of fun things to do. Go do those fun things. Perfectionism isn't fun, at least to me. I don't care about it. But yeah, the storyboard is basically just a rough sketch outline of each page. And at that point, you could definitely go and pick up some manga and thumb through them and just reference good paneling or just how the pages flow panel by panel. I didn't do that, and I think it shows, but maybe next time. It's just a good idea. Definitely throwing it out there. Don't be afraid to grab some manga you have lying around and see how other pros do it, because it'll sponge up in your brain and it'll make your paneling better in some cases. So after what I call finished storyboards, I go straight into making the final pages. It's that simple. Quick transition. And for this, lately, I've been enjoying using the lasso tool. It really helps emphasize graphic shapes, creating simple silhouettes as a base for each panel. And it just breaks up the darks versus the lights. And you could really get a good read on how the page is flowing just from these big, simple shapes. And to get your shapes, you could obviously draw them. I just am enjoying working in this way. There's so many ways to do things. It doesn't actually matter. Just do what you like, and I'll do what I like. I don't care what you do. And if you care what I do, you're probably annoying. So you can see I really enjoy turning my photo reference into mangafied textures, and I create clipping masks with them on top of these silhouettes I'm making with the lasso tool. It's a super quick way to turn simple blob shapes into something that appears to have meaning. Even though it doesn't, it's really abstract, but it looks cool to me. I like it. So definitely, it's a good time to say, like, a lot of followers on Instagram and TikTok probably think Inyo Asano is my influence with this sort of style, but that's probably because I reference Goodnight Poon Poon in a lot of my videos, and I only do that because it's a mainstream creator that uses this technique and the kids will recognize him, so it's a really easy dot to connect, and you might be able to tell already who I'm influenced by. Full disclosure, I work this way because I'm heavily influenced by Shigeru Mizuki, who was doing this decades before any of us were here. He's the master, the dude, the legend, the guy behind Kitaro and a couple other super historical masterpiece type works. There's just something I've always found so interesting about the juxtaposition of the photo backgrounds and the cartoon drawings. I just love it and I can't resist it. And it's a lot of fun for me to make images like that. So that's what I'm attracted to. That's what I go for. And when I'm doing like silly little projects like this is a great time for me to try and soul steal a little bit of that Mizuki essence for the purposes of learning or just trying to get an overall vibe that I enjoy. And on that note, I think I kind of feel like rambling about style for a little bit, which I don't do ever, but it's a good time to talk about it. Honestly, I feel kind of bipolar about the subject because there's one side of me that feels like it's a cursed quest, like going for the Holy Grail, finding your own style. And then there's the other side of me that's more academic that thinks there is a direct path to developing a style. But I also think that side is cursed as well, which I'm wondering if other people identify with this. But I personally have been doing this a long time and I feel like I'm on the endless quest and it's difficult. Let's start with the academic argument or it's not really an argument, just my thoughts about it. The academic way of developing a style would be to develop your observation skills and your imitation skills. And observation and imitation are basically a two-headed monster. They're essentially the same things, but observation, you're looking at the world around you and you're getting an understanding about what's going on as far as the fundamentals of art goes. When you're doing a still life, you can break the still life down into shapes, line, lighting, you understand shadow, light, words, academic words, like composition, form, etc., whatever. And the better you are at observation, the better you'll be at representing or accurately representing what you're seeing onto a canvas, whatever the canvas is, it doesn't matter. And the better you are at observation, the more powerful you'll be at imitation. And with imitation, you're just taking your observation skills and being able to clone and copy. And that's a great skill to have when you're trying to develop a style. Then you just go ahead and rip that shit off, steal it. Steal the things that you love the most out of a bunch of different artists. Take the elements that you like, cherry pick them, and scramble that shit together. And hopefully at the end of it, you have something that feels satisfying for you to make, because it's not really, you're not trying to be these other people, but you are trying to make something that resonates with you the same way that that art you're stealing from resonates with you. You know what I mean? And of course, this is going to get taken out of context. There's a lot of dummies out there. Hey, dummies. Thanks for the engagement. And let's see if I can clarify it a little bit more. So this is like a cookbook. Your style is the recipe, and the ingredients to your recipe is your observation skills, your imitation skills, and all the little cherry-picked elements from different artists that you really love scrambled together to create this amalgamation, grotesque thing that we're going to put in the oven. And when it comes out, it's going to pop out nice and steamy, and it's going to say your style on it. And hopefully it tastes good. If it doesn't taste good, that's okay. That's part of the process. When you add eggs to a brownie recipe, the brownies don't become eggs all of a sudden. No, the eggs just glue that shit together and make it nice and chewy. I think. I don't really know what the eggs do, but it makes it wet. Overall, crudely speaking, that's the academic way of developing a style. And it's just one way, and that's the way I did. And looking back, I do see the downside of going the academic route, and I can explain that. Obviously, having observation skills and imitation skills are super valuable when you're trying to solve problems creatively. I don't get stuck very often because I can figure out ways to create anything that I'm thinking of or need to create for whatever the given circumstances are. But with that, I have become inundated with all sorts of information that's just crammed in there. And as far as imitation goes, I'm an old person, so my taste changes through the seasons, you know what I mean? And there could be elements that I inject into my art that I like at some point in my life, but maybe they don't fit with who I am as a person now. And it's okay to change your style up. That's totally cool. But in the pursuit of having that style that you're satisfied with, or that is your brand identity of who you are as an artist, it can be super frustrating, and it could feel like a curse to be able to imitate things that you see or inject the elements you like into your work and feeling like, there's there's something missing, or it's just not who I want to be now. I want to be something else. And then here's the main problem, is that you want to be somebody, but you're not focusing on who you actually are. And I think that road of academics can lead you down a place where you're making art based on the things that you admire most, but at the end of the day, it's not true to who you are as a person or as an artist. And this is an exact problem that I personally have faced head on recently. I mean, it's an ongoing thing where I become conscious of my creative decisions or my dissatisfaction with my own work. And then I have to self-assess. I have to dig deep into what are the things that I truly like since I was a kid, like the things that have stuck with me over the years since like 10 years old on, like what are the things that still resonate? And then accepting the fact that I don't have the fortitude or the interest in putting in the time and effort to not compete, but to be in a place where my work is alongside these people I admire and be comparable, I guess. I naturally am a sloppy, lazy piece of shit. And I have to be comfortable with that and enjoy that, because I do enjoy aspects of artwork that I'd call lowbrow or naive. It's fun to make. And to me, it's where I get the most satisfaction. So it's finding where the satisfaction is and where the interests lie, and where in a year from now can I look back at art that I made and still be like, oh, that was cool. I still like that piece. If I don't still like it, that's a good sign that it's like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I was making decisions at that time that just weren't rooted in the core of who I am as a creative. And so the moral of the story at the end of this academic road of searching for style or just becoming an artist in general, it's learning to accept myself and who I am, and not looking for perfectionism and not looking to compare myself to other people. I don't care. That's the key, is to remind myself that I don't care and I'm just having fun. And I think in the long run, the more I focus on having fun and enjoyment of the process, the better off I'm going to be. And it doesn't matter what the art looks like at the end of the day, as long as I'm doing stuff with my time here. There's so many ways to do things. This is just me reflecting on my own experience. Okay. Anyway, I just want to make a point that I personally admire and value all the creators out there who have stayed true to their own childlike tendencies and imagination and just create purely for the sake of expression. I love that shit. I think that's why I gravitate towards the indie comic scene so heavily, because that's where the cool shit is. And it's also why I hold up the Mangaka 1 on this big pedestal, because that's an artist, writer who created these amazing stories about some of the most lovable characters that are extremely funny. And one isn't waiting around for anyone to come hold their hand and make it happen. They just go for it. And that results in works like Mob Psycho 100, the One Punch Man webcomic, which turned into this epic, universally loved anime, and The Old Man from the Underworld, which is another webcomic, which is pretty funny. And these works represent that pure imaginative creation that I'm a fiend for. So I now find myself on the intense journey back and heading towards a place of pure childhood creation. It's difficult because now there's like this little voice on my shoulder that tries to convince me that nothing is good enough and nothing's right. So that's why I rant and repeat the words like, I don't care, to shut that stupid voice up. And it's been working so far. Okay, I'm done with this self-reflecting crap. I'm here for the action. And by now you can tell that this mini manga is not historically accurate by any means. I sometimes wish I could be serious, but the second I start doodling, everything goes straight to hell, and I'm over here drawing little middle fingers cyclops space turkeys shooting lasers from their eyes. I don't know, can't help it. Already page 5 out of 6 pages, and that's the main benefit of doing these mini mangas, because you can just put together 6 pages super fast and there are no rules, so you can do whatever you want. And originally I had written dialogue for this little story, but I soon realized it was completely unnecessary. So the last thing I'm going to do is my sound effects. And I use this technique on every story I've made so far. I fill in a layer with black, then I add a mask hiding the black fill, and then I add a stroke to the entire layer. And you can do that in the layer properties tab when you double click on any layer in Photoshop. Then I just hand draw the sound effects. And when doing this, I'm just trying to accurately depict the emotion and texture of a sound through the design of each letter. Sometimes I'm a little more sloppy and carefree because I find there's humor in that. Now it's basically ready for print. I have all 6 pages ready to go, and now I can drop it into into my mini manga template. So this is the setup. It makes it really easy. I drew all the pages on an 8.5 by 11 size canvas, and my template is an 11 by 17 divided up into 8 equal slots. And each slot, when you shrink the pages down, it fits an 8.5 by 11 page. It's awesome. And that means I've got 6 pages of story and then a front and a back cover. But my template is actually numbered for the Western format, but I like to make my manga in Japanese format because that's just how I enjoy reading. And I just reverse the order of my pages. So instead of page 6, that's page 1. And then instead of front page, that's the back page. So now the back page becomes a front page. And then when it folds up, it works perfect. And then this is my favorite part of the mini manga is you can print on both sides. So one side will be your pages when it's folded up, makes a perfect little booklet. And then when you unfold it, you can have an entire poster printed right on the back. So when it's unfolded, it reveals a secret poster. I think that's awesome. It's really cool. And I do that on every little mini manga I make. If you want this template to make your own mini manga, it's free and available on my Gumroad page. Also, shout out to the Patreon. That's where I share my art files, my tools, and my photo packs. Thanks so much for the support. Club Pig Lizard Plus. That's where it's at. Now subscribe, like, share, follow, whatever. I don't care. Bye.